I was about 10 years old when this happened. Halloween was always my favorite holiday, and my parents usually took me and my little sister trick-or-treating around our neighborhood. But that year, my dad was out of town for work, and my mom stayed home to hand out candy, so she let me go with my older cousin, Tyler. He was 16 at the time, so my mom figured I'd be safe with him. We started around 6:30, when the sun was just setting. The streets were busy with kids in costumes and parents walking behind them. Tyler wasn't really into Halloween anymore, but he agreed to come because my mom insisted. He mostly walked ahead of me, scrolling through his phone while I ran from door to door filling my plastic pumpkin bucket. As the night went on, fewer families were out, and we started wandering onto side streets we normally didn't go to. That's when I noticed him for the first time. A man in a full scarecrow costume, long ragged coat, straw sticking out from the sleeves, and a burlap sack mask with a carved pumpkin stitched over the face. At first, I thought it was just another costume, but the way he was standing was off. He wasn't trick-or-treating. He wasn't moving at all, just standing perfectly still at the end of the block, watching. I tugged on Tyler's sleeve, but when he looked, the man was gone. Tyler brushed it off and told me I was imagining things. We kept walking, and for a while it was normal again. But then I saw him a second time. He was across the street this time, behind a fence, leaning slightly to one side like his body didn't work right. He didn't follow us directly, but every time we turned a corner, I swear he was closer. By now, I was begging Tyler to take me home, but he was getting annoyed, telling me it was probably just some guy messing around. He didn't get scared easily, but I could tell he was starting to feel uneasy too. When we finally decided to head back, the street was almost empty. A lot of houses had already turned their porch lights off. That's when we heard footsteps behind us. Slow, heavy steps dragging across the sidewalk. Tyler spun around, but the street behind us looked empty. We started walking faster. The footsteps got louder. Then I heard a sound that froze me in place, a low, muffled laugh coming from inside that pumpkin mask. Tyler grabbed my hand and we ran. My bucket of candy spilled all over the street, but I didn't care. We cut through yards and sprinted until we could see my house in the distance. I thought we were safe, until I glanced back. The pumpkin man was standing at the edge of my driveway, perfectly still again, waiting. I screamed for my mom, and she came rushing out onto the porch, but when she looked, the man was gone. There was nothing but my spilled candy trailing up the street. To this day, I don't know who or what that was, but every Halloween night, I can't help but check the shadows, terrified that the pumpkin man might still be out there, watching.
When I was about 12, my family moved into an old house we inherited from a distant relative. The place was creaky, with narrow staircases and a dark attic I was too scared to explore. My mom once mentioned that there was an antique mirror up there in a carved wooden frame. She wanted to get rid of it, but for some reason never did. Even though I swore I'd never go up alone, I always felt drawn to it. One evening, right before Halloween, the power kept flickering on and off all day. My parents went out shopping, leaving me home alone. That's when I heard a dull scraping sound coming from upstairs, like something heavy being dragged across the floor. At first, I thought it was the cat, but she was curled up right next to me on the couch. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed up to the attic. The boards groaned under my weight, and the air felt thick and stale. And then I saw it, the mirror. It wasn't pushed against a wall the way you'd expect. Instead, it stood in the middle of the attic, angled so it was staring straight at the hatch. When I shined the light on it, my reflection looked wrong. My eyes seemed too dark, and my mouth was twisted slightly, like it didn't belong to me. I told myself it was just the warped old glass. But then I noticed something worse. When I lifted my hand, the reflection didn't move. It just stood there, staring. I froze. The flashlight began to flicker. And then, slowly, the me in the mirror smiled. Not a normal smile, but wide and stretched, far more than my face should have been able to. I dropped the flashlight and bolted, nearly falling down the attic steps. As I scrambled out, the hatch slammed shut behind me on its own. When my parents came home, I begged them to throw the mirror out. At first, they laughed, but when my mom went to see it, she came back pale as chalk. All she said was, "We're getting rid of it tomorrow." But the next morning, the mirror was gone. My dad swore he hadn't touched it. We tore the attic apart, searched every corner of the house. It was just gone. That night, I woke up with the distinct feeling that someone was watching me. And in the darkest corner of my bedroom, I saw it. The faint, cold gleam of glass.
When I was 16, my friends dared me to go trick-or-treating at the old house at the end of Maple Street. Everyone in town whispered about it, how the last family who lived there vanished on Halloween decades ago. The house had been empty ever since. Boarded up windows, creaky shutters, overgrown yard. That night, my friends went to a party, but I decided to take the dare alone. I carried my bag of candy, flashlight in hand, heart hammering. The streets were unusually quiet. Fog creeping along the sidewalks, making the street lights look hazy. When I reached the house, the gate was slightly open. I stepped inside the yard, and the air turned icy, even though it was a normal October evening. My flashlight flickered as I approached the front door. Something about it made me pause. The boards covering the windows had been partially ripped off, as if someone had tried to look out or get in. I called out, "Hello, trick or treat." My voice sounded small in the foggy silence. Nothing. I stepped closer, and the door creaked open on its own. I froze. Then I heard it. Faint laughter, like children giggling, coming from upstairs. Against my better judgment, I went in. The air smelled like dust and decay. The stairs groaned under my weight. I shined the flashlight around the living room. Old furniture covered in sheets, cobwebs hanging from the ceiling, and in the center of the room, a large mirror, cracked and blackened at the edges. I was about to turn back when I heard it, a soft whisper from the hallway upstairs. "Don't leave." I froze. My stomach twisted. I tried to convince myself it was the wind. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, descending the stairs. I shined my flashlight upward. No one. But then the light caught something moving in the mirror. Not my reflection, but a figure. A girl, pale, hair tangled, eyes black as night, staring directly at me. Her mouth moved, silently forming words. Terrified, I ran. The front door slammed behind me before I could reach it. I tripped and fell onto the porch, scraping my hands and knees. I looked back. In the window, the girl was still there, smiling, even as I backed away. I didn't stop running until I was home. I locked every door and window, shaking so badly I couldn't breathe. That night, I kept my lights on, convinced she might follow me. The next morning, the news reported something that made my blood run cold. Another teen had gone missing near Maple Street. The police said the only clue was a trail of small, muddy footprints leading toward the old abandoned house. I never went near that street again, and I never told anyone the part about the girl in the mirror, because who would believe me? But every Halloween since, I swear I can hear faint giggling in the wind. And sometimes, if I look in a reflective surface too long, I think I see her watching. I was 17 the last time I ever handed out candy on Halloween. My parents went to a party that night, so I was left in charge of the porch light and the candy bowl. I didn't mind at first. The night went by as usual. Kids came in waves, little princesses, superheroes, monsters. By around 10 p.m., things had quieted down, and I figured it was safe to turn off the light. Just as I was about to, I heard footsteps on the driveway. It was strange, too heavy for a child, too slow for a group of teenagers. A single trick-or-treater came into view. He was tall, maybe as tall as my dad, dressed in an old-fashioned clown costume. Not the fun, colorful kind either. His was faded, dirty, like something left in a basement for decades. His mask was the worst part, a cracked porcelain face with a permanent crooked grin. He didn't say anything when I opened the door, just held out a pillowcase. I forced a smile, dropped some candy inside, and waited for him to leave. But he didn't move. He just stood there, breathing through the cracks in the mask. Finally, I muttered, "Happy Halloween," and shut the door. My heart was pounding for no reason I could explain. Not even a minute later, there was another knock, louder this time. When I opened the door again, he was still there, Only now, the candy I'd given him was scattered all over the porch. The pillowcase was empty. He held it out to me again. I slammed the door and locked it. My hands were shaking. For the next hour, I sat in the living room with the TV on, trying to ignore the feeling that someone was standing just outside. At midnight, curiosity got the better of me. I peeked through the blinds. The street was empty, totally still. I let out a shaky laugh, convincing myself I had just imagined it. But then I noticed something. The candy bowl by the door, the one I had left on the table behind me, was gone. And on the hardwood floor where it had been, there was a trail of small, wet footprints leading toward the basement stairs.